When Donald Trump returned to the White House in January 2025 for his second term, the world knew that things would get dramatic. But few imagined that within a few months, global trade rules would be torn apart and redrawn. Back in his first term, if you remember, 2017 to 2021, Trump had used tariffs as a hammer, especially against China. He believed that America had been taken advantage of for decades and that tariffs were the way to force other countries back to the negotiation table. So when he walked back into the Oval Office in 2025, he didn't hesitate. But this time, however, the target list was much longer. It wasn't just China anymore. Close allies like Canada, Japan, South Korea, no one was spared. Also in line were countries like Thailand, Bangladesh, Mexico, Myanmar, and of course, India. In early May 2025, Trump shocked the world by announcing a tariff pause. For the next 2 months until July 9th, the US would not impose any new tariffs. It wasn't any softening of stance, it was more like a deadline to negotiate with the US. Trump's message to the world was blunt. If you want to avoid tariffs, let's sign a new trade deal. But there was a catch. These weren't traditional free trade agreements based on mutual benefit. Trump made it clear that he wanted FTAs where the US had the upper hand. Even countries with existing agreements were told to renegotiate. Nations that had long considered themselves safe under old pacts were suddenly scrambling. Someone like the US and Israel, they quickly signed new deals with the US, hoping to avoid the storm. Others, including the European Union, chose to wait, unsure if Trump was actually bluffing. But he wasn't. Shortly after the pause, in early July 2025, the shock came, not via press conferences or tweets, but through formal government letters. More than 24 countries received official notification directly from Trump's office. These letters were not polite suggestions, they were hard threats, clearly stating the tariff rates the US would impose starting August 1st unless the countries agreed to a new deal. Here's what some of these letters said. Canada, 35% tariffs on goods not covered by the USMCA. European Union and Mexico, 30%. Japan and South Korea, 25%. Brazil, 50%. Myanmar and Laos, 40%. Bangladesh, Thailand, South Africa between 30 to 40%. In addition, the US slapped new product-specific duties including copper, 50%, pharmaceuticals, 200%, semiconductors, though not specifically disclosed but described as high still. Explaining this aggressive tactic, Trump said, letters are better. They get to the point. Countries know what's coming if they don't act. And the world felt the impact instantly. Markets trembled. The Dow Jones dropped nearly 300 points in a single day. Businesses panicked, especially those relying on complex supply chains or cheap imports. Canada felt betrayed. Japan and South Korea were furious, saying they were in active negotiation and felt blindsided. Brazil called the move political blackmail. The tone had shifted from diplomacy to pressure. Yet, amidst this chaos, one major country did not receive a letter yet. At least as I'm speaking now, India, we still did not receive a letter. But that silence does not mean India is safe. Trump has publicly praised India's efforts to reduce dependence on China, especially in areas like electronics and pharmaceuticals. Schemes like the PLI program have boosted local manufacturing, a goal that pretty much aligns with Trump's own America First agenda. But at the same time, Trump has repeatedly criticized India's high tariffs on US goods. In his first term, if you remember, he had famously called India the tariff king. That sentiment hasn't changed. His administration has raised concerns about Indian duties on tech products, cars, and agricultural items. For example, American apples, almonds, and dairy products have faced tariffs exceeding 50 to 70% in recent years. US car makers like Tesla have also struggled with import duties exceeding 60%. Behind closed doors, the Trump administration has been pushing India to sign a new US-India free trade agreement, but on Trump's terms. That means India would likely have to lower its tariffs on a wide range of American imports. It would also have to allow greater market access in sectors like e-commerce, agriculture, pharmaceuticals, and even data localization, all of which are politically sensitive in India. And that's where the real risk lies. If India signs a deal under pressure, it would face a backlash at home. Lower tariffs on US farm goods might hurt Indian farmers. Reduced protection for Indian auto and electronic firms could expose them to competition they aren't ready for yet. Opening up sectors like digital payments and online retail could give more dominance to US giants like Amazon, Meta, and Walmart. Indian startups and MSMEs still finding their feet could be severely impacted. But if India refuses to sign, it could be next in line to receive one of Trump's infamous letters. That could mean tariffs on Indian exports, especially in pharmaceuticals, textiles, and IT services. And remember, the US is currently India's largest export market with exports worth $77 billion in FY 24-25. India also runs a healthy trade surplus with the US, around $42 billion. That surplus, ironically, may make it bigger target in Trump's eyes. So what are we doing? India is trying to buy time, offering modest reforms, signaling openness to dialogue but avoiding a full-blown FTA as of now. It's a delicate balancing act. The government knows that a misstep could invite tariffs, but signing a rush deal could spark domestic uproar ahead of crucial state elections. The August 1st deadline looms large. Countries named in letters are scrambling to respond. Some may sign a last-minute deal. Others might retaliate with their own tariffs, dragging the world deeper into a trade war. Supply chains in critical sectors like semiconductors, electric vehicles, pharma, and green energy could face major disruptions. But one thing is clear, Trump is reshaping US trade policy. He's changing the way the world negotiates. No quiet talks, no drawn-out diplomacy anymore. Just one message, deal or dare. And for India, the clock is ticking. We must decide whether to strike a careful bargain that protects our economy and sovereignty, or brace for a tariff that could cost us billions. In Trump's world, waiting too long is the same as saying no. If you ask me, it's a dumb policy that US and Trump has adopted and has shaken the world. Mr. Dumb policy. I'm going to make another video and to tell you why the tariff game that US is trying to play is going to eventually make it the biggest loser out of all the countries out there. Till then, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again.